KNXX, Donaldsonville, and WDGL HD2 Baton Rouge. This hour brought to you by Spencer Callahan Injury Lawyers, LA 21-12681. Offices in Baton Rouge. Now, The Hunt Palmer Show. You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Wednesday. About half the work week in the rearview mirror. Appreciate you hanging out with us. SEC Media Days rolling on from up there in Dallas. We're hearing from Florida right now. Earlier on today, got word from Alabama. Texas is to come. Mississippi State taking their turn as well. So we'll preview all of those teams here over the next 2 hours. Glenn West is going to join us in hour number 2 to talk about his time in Dallas, walking around with the SEC contingent back on Monday. So we'll get to a little bit of the Tigers. Plenty to get to. Jacob Beck and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. It's a What If Wednesday. You can get those to us here in the next 30 minutes, and we'll chat about some of that. Gotten some good submissions via Twitter already, so fired up for that in 30 minutes. Some baseball to start things today on a couple of different fronts. First, let's start with the Major League Baseball All-Star Game, which took place last night. And from the local perspective, of course, the angle is Paul Skeens. And I thought it was just really, really cool for Paul Skeens to get that honor. He walked the red carpet with Livy Dunn early on, then is able to have his name called with the rest of the All-Stars as he's warming up. He goes out there to the mound. They're talking about his time at the Air Force Academy and then going to LSU. I'm not certain they were 100% right on some of their facts there because we spoke to Paul Skeens on this show. I'm not sure he was a fighter pilot. He was certainly at the Air Force Academy and training to be a member of the United States Air Force. I'm not sure the 6'6", 260-pound dude was about to hop in the plane.
Yeah, we don't fit in fighter jets.
Beck, as a tall Slenderman will tell you, it's not necessarily the best fit. But either way, they were talking about LSU. He's on the mound. They show Livy Dunn, the big LSU logo. I mean, no other college got their logo put on the Major League Baseball All-Star Game last night. And I thought it was a really, really, really cool event for Paul Skeens. I certainly was locked into every pitch that he threw. I was hopeful he would get a punch out there. You got to realize the hitters that he's going against there. Stephen Kwan is leaps and bounds over everyone in Major League Baseball in terms of batting average. He is crushing the field for the batting title. He was the leadoff hitter. Gunnar Henderson is potentially going to be the MVP. He was the Rookie of the Year. He's a superstar already at this young age in Baltimore. Juan Soto, you already understand how great he has been through his career in Washington and in San Diego and now up in New York. And Aaron Judge is the likely MVP who's just bashing home runs at a ridiculous clip. And that's who Paul Skeens saw, and none of them put a good swing on Paul Skeens. Saw guys swinging over the top of those splinkers, laid on the heater. They're good, and he wasn't able to strike him out. I was hoping for the strikeout. I was looking for the K. He didn't quite get there. I was hopeful, and this is a historic achievement that Pedro had back in that Fenway All-Star Game where he punched out Sosa and Bonds and McGuire and those guys, and it was just electrifying. I was hoping to get a little bit of that from Paul Skeens. That was ambitious, and we didn't get that, but he did not allow a hit and just gave up the one walk to Juan Soto. So an incredible moment for Paul Skeens, an incredible honor for Paul Skeens, well-deserved, and a great piece of exposure for LSU. Jay Johnson certainly didn't waste it. He jumped onto Twitter, said in the last 2 years, 16 pitchers drafted, got the All-Star Game starter, powerhouse of college baseball, come to LSU. So Jay never wasted time to recruit. He spent his whole time recruiting in the transfer portal for the last month, recruiting guys not to go to the draft for the last 3 days. That's over. You think, okay, Jay's done. He can go relax. No, he's firing up the Twitter machine, talking about Paul Skeens at the All-Star Game. I thought it was fantastic and a really, really cool thing for LSU. The other piece to this baseball puzzle as we start here before we get into a ton of football is the Major League Baseball draft, which concluded yesterday, as we know. It was just about over when we were going off the air yesterday, and I told you before we left the airwaves there were about 2.5 rounds left. I said, I think it's likely Jared Jones is coming back. And Jared Jones announced that he is going to come back yesterday via Twitter. We'll play on words on the kitchen show, The Bear. Said season 3, The Bear coming soon. And he said he could not be more excited. Go Tigers. This is massive. I know there was a lot of discussion about Griffin Herring, a lot of discussion about Jared Jones and what it would be if those guys left or came back. And I know that Griffin Herring had an incredible year, and I would love to see him come back and try to start. That's not going to happen. Jared Jones was the more important one. I believe they've got enough dudes to replace the production of Griffin Herring. Is the person or people who replace Griffin Herring going to be quite as dominant, quite as consistent? It maybe not, but I think they'll be comparable. I didn't see anybody on that lineup, if you remove Bear Jones from it, moving into next year, that was likely to hit 20 home runs. Jared Jones is likely to hit 20 home runs, and he could hit 30 home runs. Now, it's hard to replicate the 20-homer season. Jack Caglione was able to do it, but for him to come back, that's a massive part to this lineup and is the linchpin of this thing. They will put people around Jared Jones. That's how you will build this lineup. And so for me, that was the most important guy on the current roster for LSU to bring back. And that is going to happen. Jared Jones did not even get drafted, so it isn't even as if someone can take a flyer on him that took him in the 19th round and see what they can save and see if they can make something happen. No one even took him. So Jared Jones will be back. I think that's a massive thing for this LSU baseball program and the team moving into next year. I have this thought that I want to just drop on you, and honestly, I'm not even really being hyperbolic here. I'm going to spend the next 5 minutes talking about some SEC baseball, and then we're really not going to talk baseball again for a pretty long time. I mean, we are into football. We've got the Saints reporting as of today. The rookies are there. We're going to talk to Luke tomorrow from California. The vets will be there next week. LSU's a little bit over 2 weeks from reporting, I believe. We're there, and so we're going to get into football, and we won't spend any time on baseball. But in the meantime, I'm going to squeeze one more piece in. Y'all realize if you can bring yourself back to that awful brain space we were in after 5 weeks of SEC play where LSU got out of the blocks at 3-12. And one of the things that LSU simply could not do was win Game 3s. They were just terrible in Game 3 of series. And that was true. They didn't really have a third starter. They were getting run ruled. They weren't being competitive. They were striking out too much in Game 3s. And it was a huge problem for LSU. And one of the things that I looked at when that problem was ongoing was like, what's the issue? And there wasn't one issue. Everything was bad in those Game 3s, whether they were Saturdays or Sundays. It was terrible. They were terrible in Starkville in Game 3. They were terrible against Florida in Game 3, got run ruled. Terrible against Vandy in Game 3, got run ruled. Got beat by Arkansas in a Game 3 that they were leading. Got beat up in Knoxville in a Game 3 that they looked to have a chance in early. Like, it was just bad in Game 3s. Now that the dust has settled in the Major League Baseball draft, I want to tell you who LSU faced on the mound in those Game 3s. The Florida series was Jack Caglione. He was the 6th pick in the draft. Now, I know. He was the 6th pick in the draft because he hits 30 homers a year from the left side. So I understand there's a caveat there. But you also, as the listener who has watched Jack Caglione play for 2 years, know how good his stuff is, how talented he is a left-handed pitcher. That's one of the guys you saw as a 6th pick in the draft. In the SEC opening weekend, you split the first 2 against Mississippi State, and you go out in Game 3, and you saw Jurangelo Sainja. He was the 15th pick in the draft. You saw him on a Sunday. That's 2 of the top 15 picks in the draft you saw in Game 3s. Carter Holton from Vanderbilt. Now, that was a little bit of an interesting circumstance. He was really their ace, but they had gotten into an injury situation and a weird deal with the rain out plus a Thursday night game, so he got bumped to Game 3 against LSU. Still, he was the 62nd pick in the draft. We hadn't gone through 2 full rounds, and Carter Holton came off the board. You saw him in a Game 3. Brady Tigert is who you saw in Fayetteville in a Game 3. He was a 12th round pick and probably would have been better that if he had stayed healthy for 3 years in Fayetteville. He did not. He dealt with arm injuries basically the whole time. But that slider was devastating, and he was projectable as a top 2-3 round pick for sure most of his time in Fayetteville, but the injuries didn't allow it. But he did get picked. And then you saw Xander Sechrist in Game 3 in Knoxville. And that guy was given the ball with the national championship on the line in Game 3 and won that game. So what you saw in those 5 Game 3s where LSU stunk and got beat and beat and beat and beat. The 6th pick in the draft, the 15th pick in the draft, the 62nd pick in the draft, the winner of the College World Series Game 3 final, and Brady Tiger who went in the 12th round. That's what you saw. And that is something that you don't see anywhere else. We can say the ACC is a good baseball league, and it is. We can say the Big 12's got some good teams and some good players, and they do. But the fact of the matter is that this sport has been boiled down to so little, and the talent has been condensed into so few programs, that what Jay Johnson was saying back in the middle of the season and late in the season, that LSU was really good and a top 15 team and could have contended to win any other league, was not that far off. You look at the numbers the SEC has compiled against the other conferences in Omaha the last 3 years. It's obscene. You look at the national champions. It's very close to 7 different ones in 7 years. You look at the draft picks. You look at the arms and the teams that you face on any given weekend in the Southeastern Conference. There just isn't a comp. There's just not. Wake Forest is doing a good job. Florida State's got a good coach. Clemson's got a good coach. Virginia's got a good coach. Duke's got a good coach. But this league is just very different. And I'm going to have to approach it even more differently than I did 7 years ago. It was the best league 7 years ago. But you didn't have the transfer portal. And so you would not have had Tommy White or Jacob Berry. You would not have had Paul Skeens. You would not have had a lot of these guys that have transferred in and blossomed. And on this coming LSU team, I mean, you're going to look at a lot of guys that transferred in that are going to be big pieces to this puzzle. Maybe Anthony Ionson's the next one I talk about like that. Maybe Luis Hernandez does hit 22 home runs for LSU. Maybe Daniel Dickinson blows up and becomes the 22nd pick in the draft next year out of Utah Valley to LSU. He wouldn't have been here. And it takes sometimes the Major League Baseball draft, not some Southeast-based SEC baseball homer, to give you that information. Like, just look at the draft. And it's going to take us here in Baton Rouge and the people over in Starkville and College Station and even Knoxville and Gainesville, Nashville, like Fayetteville. You're going to lose some weekends. There's too many good players. There's too many guys that are going in the first 3 rounds of the draft throwing at you. And you're not going to beat them all. Not every year. You may pop a team here or there that's really tough to beat. But sometimes you're going to take your lumps. And I think I have to kind of reevaluate how I feel about the league, now getting a full grasp of what this thing actually looks like. So, cool night of baseball for LSU from an all-star game perspective. I think a really quality weekend for the baseball program as far as the draft goes. And now we kind of turn the page and start talking about football. So, where do we turn? The Alabama Crimson Tide. Kalen DeBoer took the stage. I'll tell you what I thought about that, plus my preview of the Alabama team coming up next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
Every shot, every goal, ESPN Bet has fans covered for the biggest moments in sports. The exclusive Sportsbook of ESPN is the only place where you can find special offers and promotions from your favorite ESPN shows and personalities throughout the summer. New users can get a bet reset up to $1,000 in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. So download ESPN Bet today. What a play. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-522-4700 in partnership with the Bears Lake Charles. Terms and conditions apply. See app for details.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we, as farmers, strive to have. It's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be where we want to be is in John Deere. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our #1 product is always customer satisfaction. Visit us online at reliefwindows.com. Oh, by the way, we do shutters too.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Moscona inviting you to join us for Wednesday's Hump Day AFR. Day 3 from Radio Row at SEC Football Media Days. Alabama, Mississippi State, Florida, Texas, they all take their turns. We'll have it all covered. 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Look, I'm trying to put the baseball talk in the rearview mirror. I'm trying to move on to football. It's what everybody wants. It's what the people clamor for. And I got people in the Bayou Ford chat asking me about baseball lineup. So I gotta answer the questions right there in the Bayou Ford chat. But I'm not going to fall back into it. We're not going to talk about it on the air. We'll just leave that in the chat.
I will say,
like Braswell to hit ninth.
we did have someone yesterday. I didn't get this, but we always mention how we want people to speak up and send us. They can send us some audio or video or text messages. And yesterday, somebody asked about. They said they were going to be going to the Astros Pirate series.
Okay.
And they were trying to figure out when Paul Skeens would be starting. And I don't know if that's
no chance.
I don't even know if that's even possible to.
They're treating him with kid gloves. You have no idea if they're going to skip a day, skip a start, go with a 6-man rotation, off days, rainouts. Like, I got that actually from my wife's friend was going to Atlanta. He pitched in Atlanta a couple Saturdays ago. Skeens did, and they said, when's he going to pitch? And it was like 2 weeks out, and I said, it will probably be Saturday or Sunday, but you won't know until 4 or 3 days out. And so we told him 3 days out, and they actually went to the game. He pitched, and he was excellent. But it's just if you're looking for that, you cannot find Paul Skeens' outing date 2-3 weeks in advance. They're doing the Pirates are being overly cautious, and there are too many variables there. So very, very tough. So. All right, let's move into some football. 4 teams at the podium today in Dallas for SEC Football Media Days. Alabama, Texas, Florida, and Mississippi State. LSU will play Alabama. They will play Florida. They will not play the other two. So we'll start with the Alabama Crimson Tide. Certainly no Nick Saban on the podium today, just sitting there behind the SEC network desk with a big old smile on his face. This was always a fun time for Nick Saban because he'd come up with his 3 talking points he wanted to get to, and I always chuckled when he would get off the podium. Right before that, he would say, I want to thank all of you for all the great work you do to college football. Don't worry about the fact that I'm going to berate you for the next 4 months and tell you that what you write is rat poison and tell you the question's not very good, or I'm not going to answer what you're saying, or I'm going to be a little crass in my press conferences with the Coke bottle in front of me. Thank you for all you do. I always got a big kick out of that. Kalen DeBoer, not like that. I got to tell you, Beck, this is a bad deal. I find Kalen DeBoer likable.
Okay.
I find Jeff Lebby likable. I find Lane Kiffin likable. I find Sam Pittman likable. I don't find Hugh Freeze likable at all. But there are so many guys. I find Mike Elko likable. Like all these guys that were in what was my division, I'm having a hard time conjuring up some real dislike.
Well,
I didn't have any problem disliking Gene Chizik. I don't have any problem disliking Houston Nutt. Certainly not Nick Saban. I can dislike Gus Malzahn. Hugh Freeze is like the only one I don't really like in the whole. Now I know there's no divisions anymore, but like everybody else seems just to be quite all right, and that's not. I need some fuel.
Well, let's let the season start, and maybe
they beat my brains in a couple times.
Yeah,
and I might not like it very much.
Yeah, and then maybe some words will be spoken by them. That's maybe can be.
That's
can
all
be
it
taken.
takes. Because like Nick Mingione screwed up one time, and that's gotten me through a decade.
Yeah,
and apparently he's a super nice guy. So
Yep.
I guess you bring up a good point. I'll just have to wait until one of them puts their foot in their mouth, or I irrationally lash out at something that's a fairly tolerable comment. Here's something that, tell me if you agree or disagree with this, Beck. It's a little bit of a stretch. I will admit it's a little bit of a stretch, but I think it's on the right path. Kalen DeBoer's track record is kind of similar to Brian Kelly's. You just have to condense it all down.
Yeah.
Like DeBoer went to Sioux Falls in the lower level and was 67-3. That to me is similar to Brian Kelly going to Grand Valley State, going 118-35 and winning a national championship. Like low level stuff, took over at a young age and won a ton of games. Then Kalen DeBoer went to Fresno State and took over a dumpster fire, and he was only there for a couple of years, but his last year they went 9-3. Brian Kelly went to Central Michigan and took over a dumpster fire, and his record wasn't incredible, but the last year they were 9-4. So kind of a similar deal. Took a bad lower level program and built him into a nice winner. Then Kalen DeBoer kind of gets his first real shot, goes to Washington and gets them to the playoff. Like had a great couple year run there with Michael Penix. Kind of the way that Brian Kelly, although it was a long time, got Notre Dame into the playoff or the BCS championship game twice. Like just a couple of guys who started at the very lowest level, who are from very low level environments. That's where they played their college football, and have worked their way up step by step, just winning a lot of games. Brian Kelly, longer tenure. Kalen DeBoer, though, kind of the same type deal.
Yeah, I agree. I think you can see whenever somebody's able to succeed at each level like that, starting at a lower level and continuing to move up in competition, and they still are winning, it just makes it clear that these teams are succeeding because of the coach. It's not because they got some players or anything like that. It's the coach is able to implement his system, his culture and philosophy, which we've seen with Brian Kelly do. So it wouldn't be a shock to see Kalen DeBoer be able to do that at Alabama too.
Kalen DeBoer's record is 104-12. Like that's
pretty good.
That's pretty salty. He's lost 12 games in 9 years in football. Like that's pretty remarkable. So let's get into this Alabama team. Kalen DeBoer has had an elite passing attack everywhere he's ever been. At Fresno when he was there, incidentally, Jake Haener was his quarterback at Fresno State, which I did not know. Of course, now member of the Saints. At Fresno State, he was 5th and 9th in the country in passing. He goes to Washington, gets Michael Penix. They were 1st and 2nd in passing. So over the last 4 years, all 4 top 10 passing offenses in college football. The question is, can Jalen Milroe do that? And we'll just have to get the answer, I guess. And I got real news for Alabama fans. Although they have a good team and they've got really good players, they don't have Rome Odunze, Jalen Polk, and Jalen McMillan. Like those 3 dudes from Washington went 1st round, 2nd round, 3rd round in the draft. And Alabama just doesn't have that right now. They don't have Devontae Smith. They don't have Jalen Waddle. They don't have Amari Cooper. They don't have Rome Odunze. They've got some talented guys, but like their best wide receiver, Isaiah Bond, went to Texas. And at running back, they've got Jam Miller, who's a former 4-star and a junior, and Justice Hayes, who's a sophomore, who's a 4-star, but that's not Najee Harris or Trent Richardson. That's not Josh Jacobs, I don't think. It's not Derrick Henry. They're just good. They have a good team. They don't have, in my opinion, the death machine that they've had before. And that's just a little bit different. They look like a goods team. I don't know that they're significantly better than Tennessee. I don't know that they're significantly better than LSU. I don't know that they're significantly better than Oklahoma. I don't know they're significantly better than Missouri. I could argue they're better than all those teams, but there were times where they took the field and you were just like, well, you're going to have to be perfect to beat these guys, and it's probably not going to happen. I just don't know that I believe that now. Their defense, we'll see. They lose Dallas Turner. They lose Chris Braswell. Your best player was going to be Caleb Downs. He leaves and goes to Ohio State. And Kalen DeBoer's Washington defenses weren't very good. Now, he wasn't running them. He's an offensive guy, but his Washington defenses weren't great. So here's what they got. They got Deontay Lawson. They got Jihad Campbell, who were very productive last year. They'll play on the defensive front for him. I'm just going to listen to the guy who recruited this roster, Nick Saban, who was on the SEC Network set yesterday and said, like, they got question marks at corner. And that's, if I'm going to trust anybody, it's probably going to be him. That's his position, his group, the guys he recruited. Like, he would know that. It just feels like there's some question marks around Alabama. And then you go to the schedule. You're like, okay, Western Kentucky, South Florida, and then at Wisconsin. I have a hard time believing they can't just beat Wisconsin with dudes. Fair? Okay, fair. Then they get a bye. 3 games in a bye. We'll kind of have a better feel for who they are. Kalen DeBoer will probably have a better feel for Jalen Milroe. We'll know their skill position players by then. And I think that everybody will think, okay, that's a pretty good club. But here's the deal. They go on the bye, they come back, and Georgia comes to Tuscaloosa. I am telling you right now, Georgia is better than Alabama. They have better players. They're every bit as well coached, if not more. And they're better. And we'll see. That's going to be an incredible environment and one of the games of the year in college football. I think Georgia's going to go in there and win. We'll see. Then they're at Vandy. Then they play South Carolina at home, and they'll beat them. Then they're at Tennessee. Man, if your defense is not quite ready and Tennessee's offense is what I think it could be, that's no picnic. It's no picnic. And then if you lose that and you come home to play Missouri, could be plucky. Again, we would never have mentioned a Missouri in Tuscaloosa game under the Nick Saban regime. Never would have done that. And maybe it's a mistake today. And maybe I'm trying to lean in too hard on this thing. But it's at least a game that you have to think about. When Saban was there, how many games a year they have to think about? LSU, the Iron Bowl, and then early on, like the Petrino, Arkansas teams, and then maybe, none of the Tennessee teams scared you. Maybe Ole Miss got them a couple times, but like they had to think about like 3 games a year. I think they at least have to think about Missouri. Then they got another bye, and that's positioned strategically before they come to Baton Rouge. As usual, they get that Halloween bye like LSU does. They'll come to Baton Rouge. Then they got Mercer. Then they go to Oklahoma on the road, and they play the Iron Bowl in Tuscaloosa. They don't play Texas. They don't play Ole Miss. But all I'm trying to do, and trust me, I just told you I don't really dislike Kalen DeBoer that much. And now that Saban's gone, like there's a different feel to it. So I don't feel the way about Alabama today that I did 365 days ago. I just don't. But if we're just playing this game just to play the game, and we think that 10-2 gets you in the playoff, I've got to find 3 losses for Alabama. Beck, tell me if there's a chance they could lose any of these games. Can they lose at Wisconsin?
No.
I don't think so either. I'm with you. Can they lose to Georgia and Tuscaloosa?
Of course.
Yes. Can they lose at Tennessee?
Yes.
Can they lose to Missouri at home?
No.
Okay. Can they lose at LSU?
Yes.
Can they lose at Oklahoma?
No.
They can't lose at Oklahoma. Okay. Can they lose the Iron Bowl in Tuscaloosa?
Yes. They can always lose the Iron Bowl.
Generally speaking, other than a couple of those Auburn teams that were just atrocious. Okay. Got to get to 3 losses. If I tell you they lose to Georgia, at Tennessee, and at LSU,
that's 3.
It's doable.
It's reasonable.
I think it's a coin flip.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's a coin flip. I don't think it's 65% chance to they make the playoffs. I don't think it's 65% they don't make the playoffs, but I do think it's a coin flip. And if they lose that game in Knoxville, their margin for error is gone if we think that Georgia's going to go in there and win. We'll see. That's a look at the Alabama Crimson Tide. Kalen DeBoer met with the media a little bit earlier today. All right, we'll play some What If Wednesday when we come back on the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. You probably hear Michelle Southern voicing the commercial on our station each and every day. Says, look, if you've just got a ton of clutter in your closet, just deal with it. Like, I know in my previous life before I got married, closet was just a mess. You got suitcases in there, ties falling down, not enough room for the suits. I end up pulling a shirt out, and it's been jammed up there and wrinkled. You just got a bajillion shoes and nowhere to put them, or you're trying to share a closet because someone's moving in. It's just simplify your life. Closet can be a mess, and David Duvall and his team can do two things for your closet. One, create enough space to make it a manageable situation. And two, make it look aesthetically gorgeous. Look at some of the pictures of his great work at OneBathAndClosets.com. He promises to make things look great and function well. It's so important. And he can do that for you with a free consultation, questionnaire to see what you want and what you've got. And I promise you, they're going to start that process, and they're going to finish it. And they're not going to be coming back 3 weeks later because something's malfunctioning or they cut a corner. They're going to do it right the first time and leave the competition behind. It's the only phone call you'll need to make is to One Bath and Closets, or check them out online, OneBathAndClosets.com, OneBathAndClosets.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is taking $20,000 off new 23 Ram 1500 trucks. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $20,000 off the powerful Ram truck. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs, even in the case of an after-hours emergency. The light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Bayou Ford has $10,000 off F-150. $10,000 off the new 2024 Ford F-150. And all new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Wednesday's Hump Day AFR. Day 3 from Radio Row at SEC Football Media Days. Alabama, Mississippi State, Florida, Texas. They all take their turns. We'll have it all covered. 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
I lied to you all. It wasn't intentional that I lied, but it was a lie. I said that we were going to leave all the baseball talk in the rearview mirror. We were going to get to football, but LSU just got a huge commitment. Now it's for next year. They just got one. Ethan Klaus from Las Vegas, Nevada. Top 50 high school prospect in the country, number 1 player in the state of Nevada. He's a middle infielder who hits left-handed with a lot of power. A big kid, huge prospect, and will certainly be a draft pick, draft risk this time next year. But he did commit to LSU as Jay Johnson continues to take commitments from some of the best high school players in the country, and you will lose some. But if you can get some of them, it makes a big difference. So as Jay says, you got to have major league players to win at the level that LSU expects to win at. Ethan Klaus projects as one of those, and LSU's got him in the boat for next year's signing class. He'll start his senior year of high school coming up here in a matter of months. All right, let's play some Take It or not Take It or Leave It. Let's play some What If Wednesday.
Time, space, reality. It's more than a linear path. Where a single choice can branch out into infinite realities. Follow me and ponder the question. What if?
All right, first one here. What if you could get 15 minutes with any coach, player, or media member at SEC Media Days?
I got bad news for a lot of folks around LSU land. Like, Nick Saban is looking more and more likable by the day.
Yeah.
I was just looking up at the TV in here. We got 4 of them going, but 2 of them were on media days at one time. And he was with Greg McElroy, and they were doing a hit what looks like College Football Live. He was cutting up and laughing. Like, he was almost belly laughing at one point. I mean, the guy is just doing all right. He was talking about how he's on the golf course at 7:30 every single day, and by the 9th hole, he's got a text full of list of things to do from Terry, and he just feels like a normal person now. He didn't feel like a normal person. He was in my life for 25 years, and he didn't feel like a normal person any of those 25 years. He's feeling like a normal person, and I don't know that he's completely ready to drop those gates and really give you the full context of what's going on. It took Skip Bertman a little while to do that, and now he's an open book, and I think Nick will eventually get to that point. But if you're going to give me 15 minutes with anybody there, I think it's going to be Nick, because he's got a local angle here with some of the things that he could probably talk about with LSU now a little more freely, and has a great handle on what's going on in the world of college football right now. I'd love to talk to him about recruiting in the NIL world. I'd love to talk to him about managing a roster in the transfer portal world. I'd love to talk to him about the Alabama team this year. I'd love to talk to him about his time at LSU and what his memories are of that. I think all of that would be as interesting as anything. There are a lot of people there that I love to spend some time chatting with, but I can't come up with one that has more angles and depth to it than Nick Saban.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that, honestly. Not really sure if there would be a very obvious other choice than that. Moving on, what if you could pick the winner of the Open Championship?
Hand selected, I mean, Tiger's the answer. I don't think it's realistic.
No.
The other 2 that come to mind immediately are Spieth and Sam Burns for different reasons. I just want Spieth to get back into that spotlight because he's such a wild player to watch with the crazy shots and the unbelievable putting and the talking to the golf ball and him and Greller, and then it would add a layer of history because he's got 3 majors, and this would be another one to add to it. And there's just a lot of layers to that. Sam Burns, he's a local guy. He's a Shreveport guy. He's an LSU guy. He's never really played well in a major, much less contended and won one. So I think that if you're going to move Tiger aside, it's probably Spieth and Sam Burns for me.
I'd probably go with Rory. I think it's just in my opinion, I feel like if he could have gotten that one at Pinehurst, if he can get one at the Open, I think that would just make. I think he would play a lot better after that, just because I think he's it's so much in his head now that he just hasn't won one in so long, I think if he can get over that hump and win one, I wouldn't be surprised if he wins at least another one, if not a few more. So for me, I go with Rory. I didn't like the way he handled everything at Pinehurst, but I still like the guy. I think he's one of the most likable players on tour, and he deserves to win another major. He's played really well for so long, so I'd go with him.
I picked him on fantasy golf. You should be proud of me.
Good choice. Moving on, these are from Twitter we've got. First one here. What if LSU spied Milroe with Perkins last year?
I mean, Milroe was just running all over the place last year. Now, Jaden was too. The two quarterbacks were just running rampant in that game, and it was really most of the two offenses to that point. I think Harold Perkins is one of the few guys in the Southeastern Conference that could athletically move with Jalen Milroe and get him on the ground. But it didn't seem like something they wanted to do. I listened to Nick Saban yesterday talk about what Jalen Milroe does to defensive coordinators, and if you do spy him, you rush one less, and if you do spy, like, you can play man, but if you don't spy and you play man, he's going to kill you, and that's what seemed like happened to LSU the entire game against Jalen Milroe. I think it probably would have helped, but again, I'm hesitant to just absolutely go haywire on X's and O's in football. It's just not my corner of the store, and there are a lot of issues that LSU's defense had last year, and I don't know if you could solve all of them by slapping Harold Perkins in the middle of the field.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not sure that it would. Maybe it would have changed some of the way the defense played in that game, but I'm not sure that it would have changed the outcome. Moving on, what if William Schmidt is as good as advertised when he pitches next season? What would the rotation look like?
Look, we got to be careful with William Schmidt here because he's entering a whole new world. I want to, like, when y'all listen to the morning show, it's very relevant for Jacob and T-Bob to speak to their experiences in athletics. And it's not relevant at all for me or Moscona to talk about our history in athletics. We were mediocre high school players. But I want to use my experience as an athlete in this talking point. William Schmidt was just facing high school kids. And I was a private school, pretty good high school baseball player. I was a first team all-district player, which is in no way to like bring shine upon me. It's to further my point. If I would have faced William Schmidt, I would have had zero chance. He throws 97 miles an hour. And I was a pretty good high school baseball player with like no chance of playing in college. You're not talking about the elite, the Josh Smiths, or you're talking about just Joe Jesuit baseball player, Joe Edie White baseball player, me. I would have had no chance. I faced one guy in my life that threw over 90 miles an hour, and I had no chance. Like I faced Austin Ross, who pitched at LSU. I faced Daniel Bradshaw, who pitched at LSU. I faced Randy Ziegler, who pitched a regional opener against LSU. I got hits off of all those guys. You start talking about guys that throw in the 90s, I had no chance. And that's who he was just facing. He's about to go up there in the fall and then into the season and face guys that see him every time, every day, every game. He's nothing out of the ordinary for them. It is a whole new world for him. So I hope they bring him along slowly. They've got proven weekend arms. Anthony Ianson can pitch on the weekend. Zach Cohen can pitch on the weekend. You've brought guys in that have started huge games and are old dudes. And I don't, for those that look at William Schmidt and go, well, he could have been the 15th pick in the draft. That's the Friday night starter. Well, Alex Lang did that, but like not a lot of guys do. It took Aaron Nola half a season to break into the Sunday role. It took Kevin Gaussman about half the year to really get things rolling a little bit. Landon Marceau, it took a whole year, and he was a really highly thought of player. So let's pump the brakes on like heaping all the expectation on William Schmidt. He's going from a world where no one could touch him, whether he threw it where he wanted to or not, to a world where everyone sees him every day. And like that's going to take some time.
Yeah, I agree as well. Moving on, what if the D-line is just serviceable this year? How good will LSU's defense be?
Like, fine, but that's kind of the point. If they're and that there was like, well, just be decent.
Yeah.
Just be. But do we think LSU's going to score 42 a game or something? Like, if you're just decent, like you'll probably lose a few games. Like, if you're just decent. So, and that's kind of what I think they might be, is just decent. So I think they might lose a few games. So I think if they're just serviceable, you'll probably go 9-3, 10-2.
Yep.
That's if you're just serviceable.
Yep, that's definitely That's definitely going to be the case, I think. If the D-line, and I don't think anyone expects them to be extremely good. I think everyone expects that the defensive line is probably going to be serviceable, and if that's the case, the defense will be a middle-of-the-pack SEC defense, and if the offense is as good as we expect, which should be a higher-end offense, then there's probably going to be a couple losses on the schedule. So moving on, what if the Saints had signed Deshaun Watson?
He's a lot more expensive than Derek Carr.
A lot.
So I
Hasn't
don't know
played
that that's
very
great
much.
and hadn't played great. I think your franchise is still not in a great spot.
Yep.
I don't know that he's a significant upgrade over Derek Carr, and he's a lot more expensive. So it probably would not have been a great thing for New Orleans to sign him either. The fact is that to find the next great Saints quarterback, it would probably take tanking and taking one in the draft and hitting on a draft pick, which is not a surefire proposition by any stretch. They didn't do that. They took Derek Carr. If you gave me the opportunity to take Carr or Watson on those price tags, I'm taking Carr. I think the franchise is in a better spot now because it's more flexible than it would have been with Deshaun Watson. So those are my thoughts. All right, that's it for What If Wednesday. We're going to take a timeout. When we come back, we'll briefly talk about Jeff Levy and the Mississippi State Bulldogs. LSU does not play Mississippi State, which is bizarre, but I do have some thoughts on Levy as a hire in this football team, so we'll get to those coming up next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
Evolve Physical Therapy, evolvept.com, starring near Highland Road. Robbie Bolton is about 20 years deep in the physical therapy game, and he's got a fantastic team over there at Evolve. Professional baseball players like Kevin Gausman and Austin Nola have trusted their bodies with the folks at Evolve Physical Therapy. You should as well. They're looking for active people, youth athletes, high school athletes, young people who are still very, very active, older people who love to play golf or pickleball or go for runs or do tennis, whatever the case may be. If you found yourself not feeling great, whether you're injured, got in a car accident, slept wrong, whatever the case may be, have physical therapy done over at Evolve Physical Therapy. They got some incredible technology over there. They've got a lot of room, great machines, and the best part about Evolve is the team over there. They are so hands-on. They're going to be with you every single step of the way, and that doesn't mean just throughout your recovery journey. It means throughout your appointment there. Evolve Physical Therapy is the physical therapy clinic in Baton Rouge. As Robbie says it, once I see you once, I will see you forever. That's his experience because they're so good over there at Evolve Physical Therapy, and they do such a great job of getting people back to their active lifestyles. Check them out online at evolvept.com. Go see them at Starring near Highland Road. It's Evolve Physical Therapy, Evolve Physical Therapy.
Get the 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge app powered by Bayou Ford and tap the microphone icon to send us your thoughts in an audio message. Your message could be played on air during Off the Bench with Esther and T-Bob, The Hunt Palmer Show, and after further review with Matt Moscone.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is taking $20,000 off new 23 Ram 1500 trucks. We're open for business in our beautiful new showroom and taking $20,000 off the powerful Ram truck. All new Bayou vehicles come with a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our #1 product is always customer satisfaction. Visit us online at reliefwindows.com. Oh, by the way, we do shutters too.
Bayou Ford has $10,000 off F-150. $10,000 off the new 2024 Ford F-150. And all new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 7-year, 100,000-mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. It's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be. Where we want to be is in John Deere. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Wednesday's Hump Day AFR. Day 3 from Radio Row at SEC Football Media Days. Alabama, Mississippi State, Florida, Texas, they all take their turns. We'll have it all covered. 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
All right, let's get to Mississippi State briefly here. Tigers do not play the Bulldogs this year, but I still think there's some intrigue there in Starkville. Jeff Lebby takes over. Mississippi State's made some bad hires in recent years. Joe Moorhead was not a fit in the southeast part of the country, and Zach Arnett had no idea what he was doing. And it's realistic to expect them to have made that move in the tragic situation that they were in, but they had to get out of it, and they did as quickly as they could. And Lebby feels like a fit. He put up big numbers offensively at Ole Miss and Oklahoma. He was on the Central Florida staff when they were rolling up a bunch of points as well. Back to the offensive identity that kind of mirrors what Dan Mullen was when he got to Starkville as well. But they got to rebuild, and they've had to do it in a big way. No returners on offense, only 2 on defense. So heavy transfer portal for Mississippi State. The offensive line obviously lost all 5 starters. They got 4 new ones from the transfer portal. And Blake Shapen will be the quarterback. I did not realize this. Blake Shapen, Evangel Eagle. He won a Big 12 championship at Baylor, played 27 games there, completed 65% of his throws, about 5,500 yards, 36 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions. Can't run very much, but he can throw the football down the field, and he is a veteran, and he's got a command of what to do at the college level, and Jeff Lebby kind of looked at that, and I was listening to Jeff Lebby talk earlier today on the SEC Network, and he was like, we got a dude at quarterback. Like, that's the first thing we had to do, and they went and got Blake Shapen and feel like they've done it. All the weapons, as you'd imagine, are transfers. Kelly Akayaye, maybe not, from UTEP. Kevin Coleman from Louisville. Couple of huge tight ends that are like 260 pounds that are brothers, Justin Bell and Cameron Bell. We'll see. He's scored everywhere he's been. I have reason to believe with a veteran quarterback that they ought to be able to score a little bit in Starkville this year. The question is, can they stop anybody? We know that the hallmark of great Mississippi State teams has been the defensive linemen they've put into the draft. They've got defensive players all over the NFL, but it's another overhaul. Nathan Pickering's gone. Jalen Cromity's gone. They're going to stay with that 3-3-5 that Zach Arnett had put in and try to work around that, but we'll see how that goes. Schedule-wise, here's what I'm looking at. They don't play Bama. They don't play Auburn. They don't play Kentucky. No LSU, no Oklahoma, no South Carolina, and Vandy. And a lot of these games, I think, are going to go one way or another right out of the chute. They're going to beat Eastern Kentucky. They go to Arizona State. That's a bit of a toss-up game. They're going to beat Toledo. Big 50-50 game for me is a home game against Florida. 1, Billy Napier has to have that game. 2, what a big game that would be for Jeff Lebby to win in Starkville in his first year right out of the chute against Florida. They're at Texas. They're going to lose. They got a bye week. They're at Georgia. They're going to lose. They got A&M at home. I think they're going to lose that game. I'll be pulling for them, but I think they're going to lose that game. They're at Arkansas. That's a game I think they can win. We'll see. Then they play UMass. They'll win that game. They're at Tennessee. No chance. They got a bye week. They play Missouri in Starkville, and then they go to Ole Miss for the Egg Bowl. They're not going to win that game. The 2 big games for me, for Jeff Lebby this year, are the Florida game at home and the Arkansas game. That Arkansas game is actually – that Arkansas game's at home. That at was a star that I drew. So they got 2 home games against teams they can beat, Florida and Arkansas. If they win those 2 over Florida and Arkansas and then beat Eastern Kentucky, Arizona State, Toledo, and UMass, that's a bowl team. That's 6 wins. So if they can go 4-0 in the non-conference, which includes a road game at Arizona State, they get 2 home games they can win, Arkansas and Florida. Okay, if they got to a bowl game, that'd be a really nice job. Now, if they beat Florida in Starkville, Billy Napier is not going to make it to the LSU game. And we'll talk about Florida in the second hour because LSU does play them. But I think that's kind of where this thing shifts for Jeff Lebby and Mississippi State. I think this is a good hire. I've been impressed by him speaking today at SEC Media Days. I think he's a fit there. He's a Southern dude. He's a family dude. He's an offensive dude. And feels like he's embraced kind of the family atmosphere that is Starkville, Mississippi, in a way that certainly Joe Moorhead did not, and I don't think Zach Arnett ever had a chance to. So we'll see. It matters what you do on the field, but it feels like Mississippi State needs to have a hook to win, and the hook for Dan Mullen was a really productive offense, and they went and found some country boys to go play on the defense and wreck some heads. I think Jeff Lebby can do that. So we'll see. Mississippi State taking their turn at SEC Media Day today. If you've missed any of our show today, catch it on demand, 1045ESPN.com's on-demand tab, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you find your sound, you can find us. Talked about Mississippi State, talked about Bama, a little bit of baseball, some What If Wednesday as well. In the second hour, Glenn West is going to join us. We'll talk about Texas Longhorns, talk about the Florida Gators as well. Come back after Sports Center, Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
There it is, the extra mile. On the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
At Relief Windows, we're more than windows. We're windows, doors, hardy plank, and vinyl siding. But our #1 product is always customer satisfaction. Visit us online at reliefwindows.com.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. So it's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be. Where we want to be is in John Deere. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Érase una vez un Infinity, diseñado para despertar tu imaginación y desafiarte a soñar, con 3 lujosas filas de asientos. El totalmente nuevo Infinity QX80 de 3 filas.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Christine Lisi. Steph Curry hit 6 threes among his 24 points today. Team USA beat Serbia 105-79 in its 3rd exhibition game ahead of the Paris Olympics. No surprise who the favorite is at this week's British Open. Scottie Scheffler, the outright favorite in a major golf tournament for the 4th and final time this year, plus 500 at ESPN Bet for the British Open. Raiders receiver Davante Adams addressed the topic of a possible reunion with his former Packers teammate, quarterback Aaron Rodgers, now with the Jets. Told Shannon Sharp's Club Shay Shay podcast if he were to be reunited with anybody, it would be Aaron, but stressed he's locked in with the Raiders. ESPN NFL reporter Kimberly A. Martin.
This is not Davante saying he wants to be a Jet now. This is come Halloween, if the Raiders season is in the tank and they're looking around like we're paying this guy a lot of money and we're going nowhere, then the Jets have to hop on the phone.
Yesterday, Adams' agents called speculation he was on the trading block baseless and false. In his first appearance at SEC Media Days, new Alabama football coach Kalen DeBoer praised his staff, also said it was an honor to succeed Nick Saban at Alabama.
Hey, it's Courtney Cronin. Coming up Thursday, we'll continue to react to ESPN's top 100 athletes since 2000 and wonder who will be left off of it. It's Unsportsmanlike, 6 a.m. Eastern, right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and ESPNU.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I direct your attention to something quite extraordinary?
Now, the Hunt Palmer Show. The Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour number 2, Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. Half the work week in the rearview mirror. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Glenn West from Go 24/7 with us in 15 minutes. He was in Dallas for LSU's portion of SEC Media Days, and we'll talk to Glenn in 15 minutes. Specifically, want to talk tight ends with Glenn because Mason Taylor was up there. Brian Kelly spoke about how important that position is going to be for LSU, so I want Glenn's thoughts on just how impactful LSU's tight end position may be this year as they enter year 3 of the Brian Kelly era here in Baton Rouge. But Steve Sarkisian is going to be the main topic here at the top of the hour. The Texas Longhorns taking their first spin around SEC Media Days in their home state there in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And a lot of fanfare, a lot of hoopla around the Texas Longhorns as they enter the Southeastern Conference. That's because they went 12-2 last year and just about played for a national championship. Now, Texas last year absolutely won at Bama, huge win, and they controlled that game, no question about it. They played Oklahoma State in the Big 12 title game and smashed them 49-21. And they smoked a decent Kansas team last year. But if we look a little bit deeper into that record, okay, they lost the Red River Shootout, lost Oklahoma in that game. They beat Houston by 7. They went to overtime with Kansas State. Now, Quinn Ewers was hurt in that game, but they went to overtime with K-State. That was in Austin. And they beat TCU by 3. So it's not like they were blowing everybody out. It was not some sort of juggernaut. Quality wins, no doubt about it. Great win against Alabama. Great win over Oklahoma State. You went to the playoff and you played well in that Washington game. But you had some other ones that weren't great. So I'm curious just how good this Texas football program and team are. They may be awesome, but I'm looking at the big picture there and going, okay. Now I think Quinn Ewers is really good. I've watched a lot of him, and I think he can really play. But their top 4 pass catchers are gone. Xavier Worthy and his speed gone. I think they've done a good job to restock the shelves. Isaiah Bond, we know, can be a star. He was really good at Alabama last year, catching the deep ball from Jalen Milroe. They go getting Silas Bolden from Oregon State, who they think is really good. And look, there's no question Stark has gotten a lot of things done on the recruiting trail, both in the portal and in the high school ranks. The offensive line should be great. Now, Kelvin Banks is a top 5 pick. He and Will Campbell are kind of thought of as the top 2 tackles in college football. And then at running back, it's no Bijan Robinson, but you've got C.J. Baxter, you've got Jaden Blue. Like, I think they're going to be good on offense because I think Sarkisian's good on offense. I think he's got a good quarterback and a good offensive line. And if you show me a good quarterback, a good offensive line, and a good play caller, it's kind of hard to screw that up. They're going to be good on offense. Defense, okay. You lose Byron Murphy and Tavontre Sweat. Those 2 dudes were as good a defensive tackle tandem as there was in the country last year. Bo Davis had a lot to do with that. What do you got up there? Anthony Hill was a former 5-star linebacker. He's kind of moving into his veteran time at Texas, and he should be a star. The back end struggled last year late in the season. They gave up 285-plus passing yards in 6 of their last 9. They lost 2 of those, and then on 3 of the other 4, they were just 1-score games like I detailed. So it's not like this looks like Bama's roster 8 years ago. This doesn't look like the Urban Meyer Florida teams. This doesn't look like what Kirby's got right now where it's just boom, 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 boom. Like, it's just stud after stud after stud. Like, it looks good. And compared to the rest of college football, I would suggest Texas has a really good roster. Do I feel like they're about to steamroll through the Southeastern Conference? I do not. Nick Saban was talking about Texas yesterday, and he was like, look, they look good, but I promise you, they're not going to run things in the SEC. And they're not. What does the schedule look like? Well, I think most people would suggest it looks pretty favorable for a first-year SEC team. They open with Colorado State in Austin, and they'll win that. They go to Ann Arbor. What is Michigan? Are they a continuation of the national power Jim Harbaugh had built? Are they a shell of themselves because their first-round quarterback, a lot of that stellar defense and offensive line, and Jim Harbaugh are gone? I don't know. We'll probably find out pretty quickly in Ann Arbor when Texas shows up. But that's going to be an incredible football game, an incredible scene to watch those 2 programs do battle. Then you come home for ULM. You play Mississippi State in Austin. They'll win that game. Then you got to bye. And then it's showtime. After that bye, it is showtime. You go to Dallas for the Red River Shootout with Oklahoma, and Georgia comes to Austin. In the first 2 months of that season, you've got at Michigan, Oklahoma away from home in Dallas, and then Georgia in Austin. That is going to be where the rubber meets the road for Texas. Then they got Vanderbilt on the road. That's the cakewalk. They got to bye. Then they don't have much until they get to A&M. They play Florida at home. They're going to beat Florida in Austin. They go to Arkansas. That's going to be a huge deal for Arkansas, having Texas come back. They hate Arkansas. They hate Texas. Sorry, Texas doesn't care about Arkansas. Arkansas despises Texas. It kind of feels the same way as the LSU-Arkansas rivalry thing works. But they don't like Texas at all up there in Fayetteville. That'll be a big event for them. Texas is going to win by 30 because Arkansas is going to be terrible. Then Kentucky comes to Austin. I don't really care about that. And then they go to Texas A&M, and all eyes are going to be watching that. That's going to be, no matter how the first year for Mike Elko goes, all eyes are going to turn to that Texas game for the A&M program because they still have little brother syndrome, and because a win in that game would wash away anything that went on previous. It's year one. No one in the outside media is clamoring for Texas A&M to win the SEC, play in the playoff, and win a national championship. There's no real expectation on this A&M team. There was some expectation on some Jimbo teams. There's none on this A&M team. So when Texas shows up there, whether A&M is 10-1 or 4-7, there will be a ton of attention on whether or not Kyle Field can will the Aggies to a win over Texas, welcome Big Brother into the SEC with the loss, try to control the state, that whole thing. But as far as that's more of a Texas A&M thing. As far as Texas goes, you got to get to 10-2. Okay, beat Michigan on the road. And then you're fine. You can even lose to OU and Georgia. As long as you can beat A&M in College Station, you should be fine. If you lose to Michigan, you're going to have to split those Georgia and OU games and then beat A&M. It rarely works out as simply as I'm boiling it down in these, but it's July. That's what I think. They don't play Bama. They don't play LSU. They don't play Ole Miss. They don't play Tennessee. They don't play Missouri. Like, that's pretty favorable. I think Georgia is the ultimate trump card here. If you play Georgia, you've got a leg to stand on because I think they're the best program. But beyond Georgia, it's as favorable as it's going to get. They're always going to play A&M. They're always going to play Oklahoma. You take Bama off the schedule, no LSU, no trip to Tiger Stadium, no Missouri, no Ole Miss, no Tennessee. Okay, that's pretty favorable if you're Texas. I think there's a good chance that the Longhorns are in the playoff, although I'm not ready to anoint them as near the level of Georgia or what Alabama has been. I think Texas is more so in line with Tennessee, with LSU, with Alabama today, not 4 years ago, as opposed to just because they played a playoff last year, they're in a class with Georgia. I don't see it that way. We'll see. They've got to get out of the blocks moving in Austin, and I think it's going to be interesting for me, more so than just this football season, how quickly the SEC kind of thumbs its nose up at Texas and decides it hates them. Because I was watching SEC Network earlier today. They had a roundtable going on, and Roman Harper was talking. And he said, look, I've only been to Austin one time. I'd never been before. I went. And it feels like people in Austin, Texas, think they've got a little more status than they really do. And Greg McElroy, who's from Dallas, keep in mind, said there are people in Norman, Oklahoma and College Station, Texas that are applauding you right now because they have been thinking this for decades, that Texas believes itself to be something that it's not. And I think that attitude, coupled with maybe some success on the field, maybe beating your team here or there, could really cultivate some dislike. Look where I got with Texas A&M over the course of 10 years, and they didn't even win anything. Heaven forbid Texas start doing that. Right now, I don't have a lot of ill will for the Longhorns, but I'm assuming that'll come in fairly short order. We'll see. Big season for Steve Sarkisian and the Texas program as they enter the SEC. Let's talk some LSU football, specifically tight ends. Glenn West from Go 24/7 going to join us next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
Boudreaux's Electric, 985-397-1562. Again, that number, 985-397-1562. Give them a call. Give yourself the peace of mind to have that Generac home standby generator so that your power doesn't go out at home. Maybe you're a business owner, a commercial property owner, and you would like to look into some generators. They can handle an order of your size. You got multiple locations, multiple buildings that need to be run and powered. Boudreaux's Electrical can help you with that. It's a fantastic process with Neil and Melissa. Starts you with a kind of a consultation. Okay, how many square footage do you have? What do you need powered in the event of an outage? They get you in the generator you need, a Generac home standby generator. It comes with a 7 to 10 year warranty, and it gives you the peace of mind of knowing that power is not going to go out. If the hurricane rolls through, one of those pesky afternoon showers rolls through, they got you covered over at Boudreaux's Electric. You're not going to hear about some special plan you've got to pay for to get great customer service at Boudreaux's Electrical. No, you just get it. No extra. It's just part of the deal when you're a customer of Boudreaux's Electrical. 985-397-1562. Check them out online, boudreauxelectrical.com.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared toward seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs. Even in the case of an after-hours emergency, the light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. So it's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be. Where we want to be is in John Deere. Flip the switch and
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Wednesday's Hump Day AFR. Day 3 from Radio Row at SEC Football Media Days. Alabama, Mississippi State, Florida, Texas, they all take their turns. We'll have it all covered. 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge is giving you the opportunity to win $2,000 a day with our 2K a day summer cash giveaway. Our next keyword will be at 4:35. That will be, of course, during after further review. Then you'll have 1 hour following that keyword being announced to give that keyword into the website at 1045ESPN.com to enter for your chance to win 2K a day. The summer cash giveaway presented by Citizens Bank and Trust.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Beck, what grade would you give yourself on that promo there?
Probably a D-. Well, see, here's the thing. It's not. It's the way the promo is worded. It's like it says the 835 keyword is blank or whatever. So it's like it's supposed to be for different situations, and I don't even know. I'm pretty sure we're supposed to do it just because, we'll at least have it in a few hours here.
Yes.
But it's not like there's different versions for each time period. It's just one. You have to kind of like go through each sentence. So it's not the easiest. But
live radio is a hell of a thing. I screw up 46 times a week. That's roughly 10 times a day. So we'll see how many screw ups I can bring to the table here in the next 42 minutes of action. Let's go out to the what was the Jim's Firearms Hotline. It's kind of Zoom now. With Glenn West, Go 24/7 senior writer, is with us. He joins us just about every Tuesday, but was traveling back from Dallas-Fort Worth, so good enough to give us some time today. Glenn, how are you?
I'm doing great, Hunt. How about yourself?
Doing quite well. How was the scene in Dallas?
Yeah, I think pretty positive. From an LSU perspective, it was hot and just kind of walking around the downtown alley, Dallas area. But once you got inside, you really this is always a really good kind of first sense in terms of just getting into the football mode and just getting some ideas from the coaches and the players about just kind of the upcoming season, and I think we learned some stuff. I think all three of the players represented LSU well, and we can kind of go into the fall now with a little bit of a generic understanding of what to expect.
I want to talk specifically about the tight end position. Mason Taylor was there in Dallas with Brian Kelly, and Brian Kelly said he brought him because it feels like the nation should know about Mason Taylor. We all know about the catch against Alabama and the 2 first-rounders that were catching passes instead of him a lot of the time last year. But what was your impression of the junior tight end making his SEC Media Days debut?
Yeah, I mean, he's been somebody we've been able to talk to really ever since he's been a true freshman and being a starter at LSU. And I think he's handled himself so well over his first couple of years in the program. He's really established himself, I think, as a major leader of this team going into this year. But now I think we're also going to get to the point where maybe his leadership role, in the program kind of matches up to what we're seeing on the field in terms of a featured player in this offense. I really do think they're going to really try to lean into him a lot more this year. Just based off the conversations we had on Monday, Coach Kelly talked about knowing an NFL tight end when he sees one, and he thinks Mason Taylor's definitely cutting that mold. And you get the sense that Taylor is really kind of ready to make that ascension this year. And I think that LSU certainly is in a position where they need to find some catchers that are available and ready to kind of compete on a game in game out basis. And I think he's somebody that has as good a chance as any to have that breakout season we've been waiting for. We thought it might be last year, but he obviously had some injuries, and then of course Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas were very much the showstoppers last year. So with a little bit more of an open offense this year, I would expect Mason Taylor to be a huge part of what they want to do offensively in the fall.
Where do you think he will rank on the team in receptions when it's all said and done? I'm assuming that he stays healthy.
I would say top 3. I mean, I really do feel like he's going to be somebody that they go to in certainly short yardage areas, but I do think that there's an untapped potential there in terms of his yards after the catch. I mean, we've seen it at times in his career where he's able to turn, short catches into large gains. I think that's going to be a part of this offense they really lean into now. And I did notice, just, kind of went back and watched a little bit of the Wisconsin game and kind of, his performance in that game when he had about 7 or 8 catches. And Garrett Nussmeier wasn't just checking down to him to check down to him. They were getting him those short yardage kind of throws for him to break up field and to get big yards after the catch. And I think that's going to be something where, LSU is really going to need that this year, because I do think they have a lot of good vertical options, whether it's Chris Hilton, CJ Daniels, Kyron Lacey, Xavion Thomas. All those guys can go get you, big 20+ yard explosive plays. But I think Mason Taylor's the kind of guy that if you get it to him in the short and intermediate routes, he can also turn it upfield and get you some big yardage plays as well.
If I asked you what position group has had the biggest overhaul and improvement since Brian Kelly got here, it's clearly offensive line, and everyone would say that. I don't know that tight end has gotten necessarily the credit that it may if we get into the middle of this season. Mason Taylor is the headliner there. Do you think there's another tight end or two that could have an impact this year?
Yeah, I do. I think, look, Maureen Pimpton and Mac Markway are the easy answers there, just because they've been in the program for a year and you've gotten a chance to see them probably a little bit more. But man, I'm super excited about Trey'Dez Green. I mean, you walk around the facility this summer at these camps, and the guy's legitimately 6'7", 235, 240 pounds, and really can kind of move extremely well. He's got a great vertical as well. I mean, there's just so many ways in which LSU could potentially use him in this upcoming season. I'm really excited to see how they use Trey'Dez. If he proves to be ready to kind of take on a little bit of a role here as a freshman, I think he's somebody you can split out wide and certainly put in the slot as well. I mean, he's got tons of potential, tons of talent, a great athlete. And I think, we got to wait and see kind of what the blocking looks like from him. If they really want to use, the 2 tight ends like we, expect them to lean into a little bit more this year, he's got to be able to handle some blocks on the perimeter. But I from a pass catching perspective, there's just unlimited potential there with Trey'Dez Green, and I'm excited to see what kind of fall he can have.
So let's pair the tight end discussion with the wide receiver discussion, because they kind of go hand in hand to an extent. If Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors were coming back, I wouldn't waste a lot of time talking about the tight end group because it's just not worth it. But you're trying to find guys after Kyron Lacey with Daniels and Hilton, and the list goes on and on. Do you think it's possible that they go, well, I'm not certain what we got at wide receiver. Let's use some two tight sets. Let's use these talented guys that I know a little bit more about. Or is it just going to be Mason Taylor and a lot of the wide receivers?
I could see it going a number of different ways. I do think that they are extremely excited about a number of these receivers. I think if you had to, make a prediction on a receiver that's going to have 1,000 yards this year, I think Kyron Lacey would be at the top of the list. I feel like he's kind of ready to make that ascension. And we saw it in the spring a little bit. He and Nussmeier have a really nice rapport, a really nice chemistry. But I do think that Mason Taylor and Nussmeier also have a really strong rapport as well. And I think that's going to be something they really lean into this year. You mentioned the two tight end sets. I do think that's going to be an area where LSU wants to lean into more this year. And I think you kind of really have to balance that, with the knowledge that we've also gained this offseason of how they want to be more perimeter oriented in the run game. I think those two things go very much hand in hand in terms of, wanting to get those running backs out on the perimeter and having those tight ends, those athletic blockers on the outside to be able to help break those plays. So you can disguise both of them, if you're able to kind of accomplish both in the off season and get, those tight ends out on the field together with those running backs and really be able to, I think, kind of diversify this offense and make it a really fun, entertaining group to watch.
I feel like most teams' base is nickel at this point, and if you can drag a bigger body or make a nickelback go cover Kamorian Pimpton or Mason Taylor with that size and that athleticism, I question whether or not that could be a big mismatch for LSU. So we'll certainly see. I don't want to get you out of here before we talk about the Major League Baseball draft and what we've seen over the last 3 years for LSU's baseball program. What was your biggest takeaway from the last 3 days?
Yeah, I think we kind of went in with, a little bit of, guarded optimism about their opportunity to bring in a couple of these freshmen. I mean, especially William Schmidt. I think, everything that happened after William Schmidt's decision over the weekend was just going to be icing on the cake, because I do think you could make the argument that after he pulled his name out of the draft, LSU had already been a big winner for the weekend. But the fact that you're also able to get Michael Braswell back, that really shores up your thoughts there on shortstop. You get Jared Jones back. That certainly alleviates any concerns about power hitting and certainly what he could potentially be next year as your everyday first baseman. You get Derek Curiel in here as well. Cade Aaron Beatty, the catcher. Those are both freshmen that have lots of potential and could be future pillars of this program. So I think if you look at a program across the country that did about as well as you could have hoped or exceeded those expectations, I think LSU's got to be at or near the top of the list. So really good weekend for Jay Johnson and company. They also just picked up one of the top 50 players in 2025, so they're already getting a head start on next year and doing a really good job with that class as well. So I think one of the big things that coming into this offseason you wanted to see as kind of that young kind of core that you saw move out into the transfer portal that maybe didn't get a whole ton of playing time these last couple of years, the Brady Neals of the world and, Cam Johnsons, all those guys that you kind of lost that you were hoping would be pillars of your program over the next couple of years. I think you more than made up for it with the draft and with the young pieces that you have coming in to combine with some of the young talent that has already played for you and will be pillars for you going forward the next couple of years as well.
Last one here, Glenn. Your time very much appreciated here on this Wednesday. Big announcement from a 5-star cornerback coming up this evening. What do y'all think about LSU's chances with Pickett?
Yeah, I think it's probably leaning towards Oregon. That doesn't mean LSU's out of this thing. They're going to continue to recruit him, into December, and that relationship with Corey Raymond is going to be a strong central piece of LSU trying to get back into that recruitment. But everything we've been hearing, it sounds like Oregon's going to be the pick tonight, but LSU will continue to stay on him as well.
We shall see. For all your recruiting coverage, all your team coverage, no matter what the sport, Glenn West, Sunny Ship got you covered over there at Go 24/7. Glenn with us most Tuesdays, but made some time for us today after he got back from Dallas. Glenn, thanks for the time, man.
All right, Hunt. Thank you.
Steve Sarkisian at the microphone. We already talked about the Texas Longhorns a little bit earlier this hour. Let's shift our focus to Sun Belt Billy Napier and the Florida Gators. LSU goes to the Swamp this year. We'll talk about that coming up next.
You are now listening to The Hunt Palmer Show.
Audio Video Security Solutions, avssla.com online. Check them out on Instagram, avss_BR. People's Choice Award winner for Best Vendor at the Parade of Homes. People that got a chance to see the capabilities of my friends over at Audio Video Security Solutions were blown away, and that's why they got that award. Whether it's audio, which we use all the time at the Palmer House, outside in the back patio, front yard as well. When we're cooking dinner, got the speakers that come through the roof and play all clearly, and we can control it all right there from your cell phone on an app, whether it's the video, setting up your home entertainment system. As football season approaches, you want your house to be the place to watch the game. They can help you with that as well. And security systems, nothing's more important than security. Audio Video Security Solutions can handle that as well. Give Mitchell Fisher a call. It's his personal cell phone number. I'm not sending you to some recorded line. Some receptionist might be in, might be out. No, this is Mitchell Fisher's cell phone number. He's the owner of the company right here in Baton Rouge. 225-439-7920. 225-439-7920. Give him a call. Have that consultation. Set up what you can have done. He'll get it done for you on the audio, video, and security side. It's Audio Video Security Solutions. Check them out online, avssla.com.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045espn.com.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years of success.
And looking forward to 50 more.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Electricity is all around us, and our families depend on it. Every day is sparked by the power of a cold drink or a warm meal, a movie night, and a comforting light at the end of a dark hallway. From sunrise to sunset, playtime to bedtime, our team is ready to take care of your electrical needs, even in the case of an after-hours emergency. The light in your life shines brighter with Mr. Electric.
Moscona inviting you to join us for Wednesday's Hump Day AFR. Day 3 from Radio Row at SEC Football Media Days. Alabama, Mississippi State, Florida, Texas, they all take their turns. We'll have it all covered. 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
I think the nickname Sunbelt Billy is hilarious. And I say that as someone who sat right here on this radio show and told you I thought LSU should hire Billy Napier as the next head coach after Ed Ogeron was fired. I don't hide from that. Seems like it might have been a bad take. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe he'd have done a great job at LSU. I don't know. He hasn't done a great job at Florida in terms of wins and losses. I do know that. I can't tell you exactly what the state of the program was when Dan Mullen was fired. I don't know the ins and outs of everything that's going on in Florida's NIL department or facilities-wise and all that kind of jazz. I can just look at the record and tell you that Billy Napier went 6-7 in year 1 and 5-7 in year 2, and that's not great at Florida. In 2 years, he's gone 11-14 overall, 6-10 in league play, and because of that, a lot of people have called him Sunbelt Billy, and I think that's funny. We'll see how funny it is this year as Florida takes on the most absurd schedule I think I've ever seen. So let's talk about this Florida team under Billy Napier. Graham Mertz was pretty good last year. Pretty good. 73% completion, 2,900 yards, 20 touchdowns, 3 picks. Like, that's not that bad. Against Georgia, he was okay. 74% completion, threw for 230 yards, threw for 2 touchdowns, no picks. Like, that's not bad. Came to Tiger Stadium, was trying to duel with Jaden Daniels, who nobody could that night, but completed 68% of his throws, threw for 311 yards and a touchdown, didn't turn it over. That's pretty good. They played Tennessee in the Swamp. He completed 80% of his throws, threw a touchdown, no picks. Like, Graham Mertz was fine last year. Florida couldn't run the ball, and their defense stunk. We'll see if they can run the ball this year. Montrell Johnson's back. He ran in 2 years at Florida, has run for 1,653 yards, so about 850 yards a game, 15 touchdowns he's run for. They need to be better on the offensive line. That's just a fact. So we'll see what they can do there. They've got some transfers in. That's kind of the way everybody's trying to do it. They lose Ricky Pearsall out at wide receiver. Eugene Wilson's going to fill into that and I think be just fine. Eugene Wilson was a 5-star. He's a stud. That's going to be kind of a focal point of their offense. So you've got a guy at quarterback that's pretty good. You've got a running back that's proven to be just fine. You've got a star playmaker on the outside. It's just a matter of whether or not they can block. We'll see. Defensively, like, they were just terrible on defense last year. You take South Carolina with Rattler, Georgia with Beck, LSU with Daniels, and Missouri with Cook. Those 4 games, those teams averaged 333 yards per game through the air against Florida. And it wasn't like they were good on the ground either. Kentucky, who wasn't throwing the ball very well last year, ran for 329 on them. LSU also ran for 329 on them. Crazy that it was the same amount, but both ran for 329. Arkansas was terrible last year. They ran for 226 yards on Florida the week after they fired their offensive coordinator. So it was just a terrible defense. And oh, by the way, they lost their best pass rusher to Ole Miss. They lost an impact linebacker to Texas A&M. So we'll see. They better get better in a hurry on the defensive side of the ball. But all this being said, Mertz is fine. Johnson's a good running back. Wilson's be a good playmaker. Defense needs to improve. Got some transfers in. All this stuff is fine and dandy to talk about. But the fact of the matter is that if I take anyone sans Ohio State, Georgia, and put this schedule in front of them, anyone in the country is going to have a hard time making the playoffs or exceeding expectations. That's just a fact. And I don't know how they can get away from it. I don't know that there's another thing you can even talk about with Florida's football team other than the schedule. I could try, go position by position, or talk about when Napier's done well or hasn't, or the fact that they're getting sued by Georgia's quarterback, who was their quarterback and then was Arizona State's quarterback, and that's a whole nother story. But, like, listen to it. You know it by now if you've paid any attention to football this summer. They open with Miami. They better win the game. You better beat Miami in the Swamp. It's going to be 1,000 degrees. You better win. Then you got Samford. That's a deep breath. Then Texas A&M comes in. You probably need to win that one, quite frankly. It's at home. They got a new coach. Like, you probably need to win the game. They're at Mississippi State. At worst, when you get to that first bye, you better be 2-1, 3-1. You better be 3-1. That's the only possible scenario for Billy Napier to keep his job. If he is not 3-1 through Miami, Samford, A&M, at Mississippi State, then the lights are out. Because after the bye, it's Central Florida and Malzahn, which they should win the game, but we'll see. At Tennessee, I don't think they're going to win. Kentucky at home, they've struggled with Kentucky in the recent years. Then they got another bye, and then it's just a nightmare. It's a nightmare. Georgia and Jacksonville, at Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, at Florida State. I will say that again after the bye. Georgia, at Texas, LSU, Ole Miss, Florida State. I'm going to try to do this as optimistically as I can for the sake of Sunbelt Billy. As optimistically as I can. They beat Miami. They beat Samford. They beat Texas A&M, all at home. They go to Mississippi State and win. That's 4-0. They got a bye. They beat Central Florida. They're 5-0. They lose at Tennessee. They beat Kentucky. They're 6-1 and go into the bye. Lose to Georgia. Lose to Texas. Split with LSU and Ole Miss. So you're talking about 7-4. And go to Florida State and win 8-4. That's the best I can do. The absolute best I can do is 8-4. More realistically, 6-6. Potentially 5-7. I mean, let's just go down a slippery slope. You lose the opener to Miami. You beat Samford. You split A&M and at Mississippi State. So now you're 2-2. You beat Central Florida to go 3-2. You lose to Tennessee and Kentucky, 3-4. And I can see you losing out. That's 4-8. Firing the coach after Texas beats you by 25 in Austin. Like 4-8's out there, very much. A lot of people, now this is the SEC Network talking, so I understand they're not up there to lamb-based football programs that play for the conference who cuts the checks. They're all saying Florida was a little better than you think last year. Mertz pretty good. Things go here, there. Missouri converts a 4th and 15, and they would have beaten that team. And Missouri was pretty good last year. Like, they're better than you think. Well, fine, but it's Florida, and they're 11-14 in the last 2 years. They're 6-10 in conference play. They're 2-7 on the road. That's too much sample. It's not like 2 games didn't go the right way. 2 years didn't go the right way. And perhaps you could suggest that Dan Mullen ripped it to the studs. Recruiting stunk, culture stunk, NIL was behind, no facilities. Napier walked in and it stunk. Had to redo the entire thing. Had to start on the ground level and is having to build this thing back. But I mean, the conversation around Florida is not, well, can they get to the SC championship game? Can they make a 12-team playoff? The conversation is, does Napier make it to Thanksgiving? Like, that's the conversation. And my answer is no. Simply, it's no. But what would do it? What would save his job? And I think they could make the argument that 7-5 could save it, assuming you beat LSU at home and Florida State on the road in 2 of the last 3 weeks to go 7-5. I think that maybe the administration would go, we'll give you a little more leeway. But I know the culture in college sports now. And it just feels like if Billy Napier loses a lot early in this transfer portal heavy world and the boosters start going, well, we got all these NIL contracts we're supposed to pay out, but now we got to buy the coach out. Well, those NIL payments get to be in trouble and you're not recruiting like you should be. And like this, it's just very difficult to see this work because of the schedule. If I gave them Texas' schedule, they'd have a chance, a fighting chance. With this thing, I mean, they don't play Vanderbilt. They don't play South Carolina. They don't play Arkansas. They don't play Auburn. Now, they miss Bama, Missouri, and Oklahoma, but they do play Texas. They do play Georgia. They do play Ole Miss. They do play Tennessee. They do play LSU. They do play A&M. And then the non-conference with Florida State and Miami should not have been on the schedule. That is just trying to lose. There's no reason with this SEC gauntlet and Florida State on the back end, they ought to have Miami on the schedule. That's the biggest problem. You substitute Miami for Florida International, probably a better plan. They didn't do that. Sunbelt Billy going to be collecting a fat check here in about 4 months, and he'll be back right probably onto the Sunbelt out of Gainesville, because I just don't see any way this goes well at all. We'll see. One more segment to go here. Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
Visit LeBear's Baton Rouge Casino this summer for exciting live sports action. We've got the biggest screens around, and ESPN Bet is live in Louisiana. Plus, Pin Play Rewards members can win up to $500 in pin cash every single week. So visit pinplaysports.com/cover5 today and register for your chance to play and win. If you're not a member, get the Pin Play app today. LeBear's Baton Rouge Casino is your live sports headquarters, so bring your crew for all the action. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 877-770-STOP.
Get the 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge app powered by Bayou Ford and tap the microphone icon to send us your thoughts in an audio message. Your message could be played on air during Off the Bench with Esther and T-Bob, the Hunt Palmer Show, and after further review with Matt Mosco.
There's nothing chill about a hot, sweaty line. Unless you add Mountain Cold Refreshment. Coors Light. Choose chill.
Érase una vez un Infinity, diseñado para despertar tu imaginación y desafiarte a soñar, con 3 lujosas filas de asientos. El totalmente nuevo Infinity QX80 de 3 filas.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona. For years, you've heard me tell you about Insurance Network of Louisiana, helping you find better coverage for less money. But it's not just for your home and auto. They also offer commercial property. So, retail stores, professional offices like doctors, dentists, attorneys, clothing boutiques. Insurance Network of Louisiana can find you better coverage for less money. They service the entire state of Louisiana, and they're local. So call today at 293-0450 or lainsurance.net.
Breck teamed up to reimagine your parks, and you imagined big. With your help, we went to work, creating 12 beautiful community parks across the parish. A family-sized water park, miles and miles of trails, and parks just for your dogs. There are more places to splash, to explore, to run wild, and even soar. You imagined, we delivered. Gold. Breck, your #1 park system in the nation.
Farming is a way of life for us. It's not something we get up in the morning and dread going do. It's just something we go to bed at night looking forward to getting up to go do. John Deere equipment is what we as farmers strive to have. So it's in your blood, it's in your veins. It's just a part of who you are. Green is what we want to be in. The other tractors were acquired to patch it up to get to where you want to be. Where we want to be is in John Deere. Flip the switch and learn more about what it means to be powered by sunshine at sunequip.com.
Jerry and Benny Payne began Central Plumbing Company out of their driveway in Tanglewood Subdivision. 50 years later and 4 generations down the road, we continue to serve Baton Rouge and the surrounding areas for all of their plumbing needs. Residential, commercial, industrial, or hospitality, Central Plumbing is here 24/7, 365.
We want to thank our customers, family, and friends for 50 years.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Wednesday's Hump Day AFR. Day 3 from Radio Row at SEC Football Media Days. Alabama, Mississippi State, Florida, Texas, they all take their turns. We'll have it all covered. 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
as you just heard Matt say there. We'll have SEC Football Media Days live coverage for after further review. Parish Construction and Roofing bring you that live coverage all this week. Find highlights from the week on the 104.5 ESPN YouTube channel. Our coverage is also brought to you locally by Rev Business and Relief Windows. Follow us from Dallas all this week for the 2024 SEC Football Media Days presented by Parish Construction and Roofing.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Saw a little social media video earlier, Matt, talking with Mississippi State Athletic Director Zach Selman. So that will be coming up a little bit later today from Radio Row. I'm sure a lot more from the folks over there at Dallas. So fired up for those guys, and they brought some great content all week long. We've got one thing left to do here, and that's a little bit of take it or leave it, Beck.
All right, first one here. Bronny James has now played in 5 Summer League games, Hunt. Here's his stats.
Sure, that's gone great.
Here's his stats. 7 of 31 from the field. That is 22%.
Not good.
0 for 15 from 3.
My cat could do that.
Averaging just under 5 points a game.
My cat could not do that.
No.
But not great.
Bronny will play in more than 10 NBA games this season. Take it or leave it.
Leave it. I understand. I can't even speak on this. It's so blustering. I understand, but I don't understand. I don't understand why the Los Angeles Lakers needed to pay a player completely incapable of playing in the league $8 million as some sort of thank you to his dad for playing the twilight of his career there and winning a fake championship in a summer camp. None of this makes any sense to me. It's a real basketball operation. What am I thinking if I'm a member of the Lakers who realizes they took a player in the draft who can't play, has no chance of helping the franchise, is taking a spot. I can't. It's so baffling. Is there any precedence for this?
No. Well, there isn't. There is a slightly comparable situation with Giannis's brother Thanasis playing for the Bucks. However, Thanasis has, while he has quite a bit of lowlights, there's definitely some compilations you can find on YouTube of some of the plays he's made. However, he is still very athletic. He can make plays on defense and at the rim, and he doesn't play very much. He only usually plays in garbage time. So, obviously, to me, it doesn't matter who the 13th guy or on the bench is. In my opinion, to me, it doesn't matter who the 13th guy on the bench is. It could be, if Giannis wants to have his brother on the team, that's fine. Giannis is one of the best players in the NBA. He can do that. But for this instance, Bronny James doesn't even deserve to be the 13th guy on the bench. It's very clear. But to your point, you can have him on the team. That's fine. You want to draft him. He wants to be on the team. But why did you pay him $8 million?
I don't.
It doesn't make any
understand.
sense. It doesn't make any sense.
This is just bizarre to me.
It really
is. A real organization to do this.
Yep.
It's just crazy. And like, if you're Bronny, maybe you just don't care because you got $8 million or whatever.
Maybe.
But like, you can get $8 million from dad. It's just like you're a charade. You're a circus animal at this point.
Well, and
it's crazy.
You say you can just get $8 million from dad. He basically is getting $8 million from his dad.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just like, again, this goes back to my point. Maybe Bronny James doesn't give 2 rips about playing college basketball, but like, wouldn't that be more enjoyable than having SportsCenter show your summer league lowlifes every night? You'd be like hanging out with the boys in the dorm room and playing in a game that you're competitive in. It's just, I don't know, whatever.
All right, moving on to some more positive news here. Not only is former LSU star Sam Burns playing in the Open Championship this week, current LSU golfer junior Matthew Dodd Berry will also be competing at Royal Troon after finishing tied for first at one of the 4 final qualifying events, beating out the likes of Sergio Garcia and Carlos Ortiz. I'm sure you'll be happy to hear that.
Love
2
that.
live players he beat out from qualifying for the Open. Take it or leave it.
Absolutely take it. That's fantastic. Your thoughts, where would you rank the Open Championship in the 4 majors?
I would say it is 3rd, but I think it's close. I think the PGA is at the bottom. To me, the PGA is honestly, in my opinion, I think the players. I would take the players over the PGA. The PGA is just a glorified PGA event. The winning score is almost always 20 under, 15 under. They've tried to make it a little bit harder in the last few years, but to me, it's just a glorified PGA event. The Masters is obviously number 1, and then you've got the U.S. Open in the Open or the British Open, and to me, they're competing for 2 and 3. But I think the U.S. Open is probably 2, just because it's always the toughest test in golf. And the Open is just left up to the weather.
It is.
If the weather is not bad, then the guys are going to shoot 15 under. If it's bad, they're going to shoot 3 over. So that's my opinion on it.
I don't disagree with any of that. I enjoy it. I like the fact that it's on right when I wake up. That's nice. So I'm fired up for it. You got a winner for this week?
I think I'm going to go with Ludwig Oberg. He's played incredible golf this year.
Not good on Sundays.
Not great on Sundays. However, I think he's gotten a little bit more experience in majors, and he's from Sweden. He knows how to play links golf. So I'm going to go with Ludwig for my winner. What about you?
I'll go with Rory. I'll go with Rory McIlroy. I think he's got every bit of game you need, and
he's playing great this year.
Troon's a little bit nondescript for me as far as on the road. Carnoustie got a vibe to it. Certainly St. Andrews has a vibe to it. Troon's a little bit more nondescript. The postage stamp is kind of what it is at 8. But but I'm curious. I'm excited to watch and see how things go. I'll be tuned in tomorrow morning. Give me Rory McIlroy. All right, that's it for a Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. If you missed any of it, catch it on demand. 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you find your sound. You can certainly find us as well as on YouTube. Open the show talking some baseball. Paul Skeens in the All-Star game, plus the MLB draft from yesterday. Previewed Alabama, the Crimson Tide under Kalen DeBoer at 1:15. It was What If Wednesday. Talked Mississippi State football, a little Texas preview. Glenn West talking LSU tight ends. You can find that on YouTube, Hunt on LSU. And then we did Florida as well. Matt's coming up to drive you home on After Further You from Radio Row. We're back tomorrow to wrap up SEC Media Days, and the Saints have reported. We'll talk to Luke Johnson about all of it from Southern California. Have a great Wednesday. We're back tomorrow. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play. With safety